Welcome to The Issue Is. I'm Elex Michaelson. This week, two of Southern California's most outspoken members of Congress share very different views. Joining us, Republican Dana Rohrabacher of Orange County. What he's about to tell you regarding the Russia investigation is stunning, and it's going to make headlines. Also here, Democrat Ted Lieu of Torrance, one of President Trump's top critics on Twitter, will ask the congressman to respond. A very interesting half hour ahead. The Issue Is starts right now. And welcome to The Issue Is. Our first guest is in the midst of what may be the toughest re-election fight in his 30 years in Congress. Congressman Dana Rohrabacher, Republican of Huntington Beach. Thank you so much. Great to see you. What about the Russia investigation? Do you think that Russia interfered in our election?
I don't think Russia had any impact on our election, but the Democrats are so they were so
that's
eager.
That's a different question. Do you think that they interfered in the election?
Did they in some way try to interfere?
Yes.
And yeah, sure they did. Just every other country in the world does it. Just like we do it enormously all over. The Russians did that here as well, but they did not have any. They had minuscule influence.
How do you know that they have minuscule influence?
Well, you take a look at what the intelligence communities have shown us that they have, and it's a few $1 million in a few $1 million over the internet buys and things such as that, which are, as I say, minuscule compared to our election cycles and how much money we spend.
Do you think that the U.S. policy towards Russia should change? Do you think that they should be penalized for what they did?
No, just way we shouldn't be penalized for what we do either. For example, we were trying to say, oh, well, they were the ones that hacked the Democratic National Committee. They didn't hack the Democratic National Committee. And the bottom line is, what you've had this massive attempt to get people to say that, well, Hillary lost because Trump had colluded with the Russians. That is total baloney, and it's an excuse. She was a bad candidate. The Democrats have gone so far to the left that the public can't support them, and they blame it on the Russians.
But President Trump's very own choice to head the FBI, to head the CIA, to the Director of National Intelligence, all said that they hacked the Democratic National Committee.
No, they didn't.
What did they say?
We have the utmost confidence. All of his, and by the way, that was the old director of the CIA and NSA gave that report, which said we have the utmost confidence that the Russians had done this. Now, by the way, I went to Julian Assange, of course, talked to him personally, the guy who disclosed all of these emails, and he adamantly said the Russians weren't it. And by the way, if we could in some way guarantee that he can get out of the Ecuadorian embassy, he told me he has absolute proof, just actual, not just words, but he's got proof that the Russians did not hack.
So if the Russians didn't do it, who did it?
Well, I mean, I think that it's a disgrace that you have to ask that question. Our intelligence agencies, instead of trying to play politics and blame it on and say, this was a collusion between President Trump, then candidate Trump, and the Russians, they should find out who did it. And it's very clear that it was someone on the inside. There are there are a large number of retired intelligence officers who have done a study on this, who have indicated that this could not have been a hack from the outside. It has to have been something from a download from the inside, because of the amount of time necessary for a hack in the inside to get all of those emails would have taken a huge amount of time, and instead it was done very quickly. So we know it was an inside job, and we know there are several people working in the DNC at that time who were disgruntled because they knew that the DNC was breaking its own rules by undermining Bernie Sanders' campaign.
That's a huge allegation you're making.
No, it's been around for a while. It's just that media doesn't pay attention to it, and I'm glad you are.
I mean, shouldn't there be criminal charges for that person?
Absolutely.
What's going to happen with that?
Well,
what can you do as a member of Congress to make that happen?
Well, the first thing we can do is insist, for example, that all of the evidence be looked at and be made available, and it hasn't been. The DNC has not made their computers available.
So You're running for re-election. Some of your opponents say you haven't done much in that 30 years. You don't deserve to be re-elected. What's your answer to them? What's your main accomplishment?
I authored what they called the Commercial Space Act of 2004. And that Commercial Space Act basically is what, without it, there wouldn't be SpaceX. There wouldn't be, we have billions of dollars now being poured in to private sector space projects that would never have happened. Tens of thousands of jobs right here in Southern California. That's the thing I'm the most proud of. But I think the second thing I'm the most proud of is that after 9/11, because I had been deeply involved with Afghanistan, was fighting with the Mujahideen against Soviet troops back in the 80s, and I was able to put together an alternative to just having 100,000 Americans march into Afghanistan, which would have been a horrible tactic, and I helped set up what they call the Northern Alliance.
So some might say that was 2001, 2004. What about the last decade?
Well, the last decade, all I can say is that first of all, my opponents have thought that the only thing you should get credit for is something like a piece of legislation with your name on it. I have been I've played a major role in shaping all kinds of legislation. I think people give me a lot of credit for being the father of cannabis legalization in this country. It all started when, over the years, when I fought the law, and when about 5 years ago, when I finally got through a bill that said the Justice Department cannot spend its money to supersede state law that has legalized medical marijuana.
So let's talk about immigration, because that's such a hot topic now. There's been so much criticism of the president's policy when it comes to family separation, this zero tolerance policy at the border. Do you support the zero tolerance policy?
I support turning people away at the border immediately. I would say that my greatest achievement is to making sure that we didn't pass an amnesty bill which would have attracted millions of more illegals into our country, would have been very hurtful for our population, and I played a significant role in stopping an amnesty.
Do you support the zero tolerance policy?
You're not going to control the border if you say if you take one step over the line, you get to have all the rights of an American citizen. No. I agree with the president. People should be immediately sent back. We should have a wall to make sure that people don't just get into our country, and I oppose any amnesty that we could possibly have. Now,
what about for dreamers? A pathway to citizenship for dreamers? Do you consider that amnesty?
Yeah, absolutely it is. Why should we invite, well, we have 600,000 to 1 million young people. And by young people, we're not talking about teenagers now. We're talking about mostly people in their 20s and 30s now.
Who came here when they were young people?
Yes, correct.
Their parents brought them here.
Their parents brought them. Their parents are to blame for their situation. The last thing we want to do is tell the parents all over the world, if you can get your kid into the United States, if it's illegal or not, don't worry about it, because the United States will eventually give them an amnesty, legalize their status. We will have millions more young people.
This is July 4th week. It's a celebration of America. And in that spirit, we have bipartisan group on the show tonight. We also have Congressman Ted Lieu on the show. And I was wondering if there was something nice that you could say about him.
Well, Ted Lieu is a former prosecutor, and he's always a tough guy, and I'm sure that his abilities to be really a tough guy has enabled him to be a much stronger voice than people who he doesn't have much seniority, but yet he's a strong voice in Congress.
Let's also have a little bit of fun. This is called Personal Issues. This is where we get to know you a little bit and ask you some questions. We got 30 seconds on the clock, so these are quick answers, okay?
Got it.
You ready? Here we go. Favorite book?
Favorite one? Modern Times by Paul Johnson.
Favorite Star Wars character?
Not Obi-Wan Kenobi, but Han Solo.
Okay, good choice. Favorite candy?
Favorite candy? Hard caramel candy.
A good one. Favorite fictional character?
Fictional character. Favorite fictional character? I don't have one.
Okay, iPhone or Android?
iPhone.
Favorite karaoke song? Do you have a go-to?
No.
Favorite meal?
Favorite meal, spaghetti and meatballs.
Excellent. Very nice. Well, we want to end on this. Since you are from Surf City, USA, and you're a big surfer, we've got some music for you.
All right.
And we've got some images of you surfing. And I know you're going back to surfing. You had an injury. You're going back to surfing this week, right?
It wasn't an injury. My surfing wore all the cartilage away to my arms, so I had to replace my shoulders.
But what does the ocean mean to you? What does surfing mean to you?
You know, well, it's freedom for number one thing. But have you ever gone surfing?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. When you catch that wave and you are going across the face of the wave, it's just, that is the moment that everything is, the whole world disappears, and you're just on that wave, and it's a religious experience.
It is. I think it's a spiritual experience, surfing. Yeah. Well, enjoy the ride. Great to see you. Thank you. You made it through the ride of this show. We appreciate it. Coming up next, a very different view from Democrat Ted Lieu, who's standing by. He'll join us when The Issue Is comes right back.
Surfing USA.
It's a hot night in SoCal, but a cool shot of the pier in Santa Monica and a cool song. The latest from Justin Timberlake called Soulmate. Welcome back to The Issue Is. He is one of the most outspoken members of Congress, not afraid to take on the president. We welcome Democratic Congressman Ted Lieu from Torrance. Welcome to The Issue Is. Good to have you here.
Thank you. Honored to be here.
All right, so we just saw quite an explosive interview from Dana Rohrabacher, your fellow congressperson. He was talking about the Russia investigation and made the comment that the DNC hack may have been an inside job. Take a look at what he just said.
So we know it was an inside job, and we know there are several people in working in the DNC at that time who were disgruntled because they knew that the DNC was breaking its own rules by undermining Bernie Sanders' campaign.
Is that true? Any evidence of that?
No, not at all. Dana Rohrabacher is certainly entitled to believe whatever he wants to believe, but here are the actual facts. The American intelligence community came together, issued a report that said Russia interfered in our elections, and specifically they gained access to DNC networks in 2015 and maintained that access all the way to the middle of June 2016. And just a few days ago, the Republican-controlled Senate Intelligence Committee confirmed that report.
So where do you think this is coming from with him?
So public reporting has it that the FBI actually warned Dana Rohrabacher that Russia was trying to use him as an agent of influence, that he was so close to Russia they had a code name for him. That's where Dana Rohrabacher is coming from. Those are the facts. I don't know why he's that close to Russia, but it is what it is.
So another thing that he talked about was the issue of family separation. He said no amnesty under any circumstances, turn everybody back. He said that the Dreamers don't deserve any sort of pathway to citizenship. What's your view on this?
His views are out of touch with Californians, and they're also legally problematic. So the reason that you can't turn people away at the border when they enter U.S. soil is because of U.S. Constitution, specifically the 14th Amendment, which says that all persons have due process of law, not just citizens. That's why they're entitled to file legal asylum claims. That's why they get due process. So unless you change the Constitution, you can't do what Dana Rohrabacher wants.
And on the issue of family separation, such a hotbed issue, what do you do about all these people that are coming here?
So first of all, Homeland Security Secretary Nielsen needs to resign. She had no plan for this at the beginning. Over 2,000 babies and kids were ripped away from their parents, put into these detention centers, and no tracking. So you have infants and little kids who can't identify who their parents are. Some of them may never be reunited. This is the functional equivalent of kidnapping. It's horrific.
Do you think she's going to? I mean, I know several members of the Democratic Party are calling for that.
So I believe what Abraham Lincoln said was absolutely right, that public sentiment is everything. With it, nothing can fail. Without it, nothing can succeed. We just saw Scott Pruitt resign. So if there's enough public outrage, I think Secretary Nielsen will resign.
And speaking of public sentiment, you're very aggressive on social media, oftentimes attacking the president. We pulled some of your most aggressive tweets. One of them reads, President Trump, you are truly an evil man. Your job is to help Americans, not intentionally try to destroy lives. Another one says, don't be fooled. An expensive, wasteful, stupid border wall with a happy face on it is still an expensive, wasteful, and stupid border wall. Why take on the president in this way? Is this the best use of your time? And why the over-the-top tweets?
Because one of my duties is to be a check and balance on the executive branch. And unfortunately, the Republicans in Congress have failed in that constitutional oversight duty. In addition, the president, when he says things are not true, I believe that he should be called out on it. And my view is we cannot normalize what should not be normalized.
One of the issues that I brought up with Congressman Rohrabacher was, what have you accomplished in your time in Congress? So I asked that same question to you. What have you accomplished during your time in Congress?
Sure. So in my first cycle, first 2 years, I passed over 7 bills that were written into law, either as an amendment or attached to another bill or standalone. And many of them were with bipartisan support. You have to do that in a Republican-controlled Congress. And this year, we've been able to pass some amendments as well. So I'm pleased with my legislative side. And right now, I'm just trying to be a check and balance on the executive branch.
What would you like to see President Trump do in terms of the Supreme Court?
Well, I would like President Trump to listen to what Senate Leader Mitch McConnell said just a couple years ago during the Merrick Garland nomination. He said that the American people deserve to have a voice in the selection of the next Supreme Court justice. And then Mitch McConnell held that nomination open for nearly a year for the next election to happen. Our next election is less than 5 months. I think that's when we should be looking at a Supreme Court justice.
Did you agree with that when Mitch McConnell said it?
No, I did not. But now they set that precedent, I think we should be consistent.
Really? I mean, if it was wrong then, why isn't it wrong now?
Well, because he set the precedent. Just as I opposed removing the filibuster for nominations. I think Harry Reid actually made a major mistake. I opposed it at the time. But once he did that, we now follow that precedent. So I think we should follow Mitch McConnell's precedent.
Okay. It is the July 4th week. We just talked to Congressman Rohrabacher and asked him to say something nice about you. He said that you're very tough and a good advocate for your side. Do you have anything nice to say about him?
I do. I think he's absolutely right on legalization of marijuana. In fact, we've worked together on the legalization of cannabis, and I think that is what the future is going to hold, and I'm pleased that California has gone forward and passed a ballot measure to do just that.
Okay. You ready to have some fun?
Yes.
Okay, we do something called personal issues. This is where we take 30 seconds and get to know you a little bit. So we're going to put 30 seconds on the clock, and here we go. Favorite type of music?
80s music.
80s music. Do you have a favorite song?
Invincible by Pat Benatar.
Okay. Last book you read?
Tuesdays by Maury. I actually reread that.
Oh, it's a great book. Do you have a favorite holiday?
I do. I like Veterans Day.
Nice choice. Yeah. One thing you'd bring to a deserted island?
A strawberry pie from Maria Callender's.
Okay. Best thing about being a Californian?
The weather, their environment, their people.
Do you have a favorite book?
Don Quixote.
Nicely done. All right, I'm struck by your 80s music thing. Why Invincible by Pat Benatar?
So growing up in Ohio, she also is from there, and I just like Pat Benatar's songs. I mean, I like a lot of her songs, actually. I happen to like that song the most.
Okay.
So.
Does our audio people, let's see how quick they are. There they are.
Look at that.
There it is.
Do
you have a dance? Do you have a song? Do you do anything with it?
Oh, you can't see me dance.
Okay. Just nod the head. Feels good. Congressman Ted Lieu, thank you so much. Good to see you. Enjoy the music as we go to break. And up next, a surprising new poll about are you proud to be an American? Results of that when we come back. On this 4th of July week, a question. How proud are you to be an American? For the first time since Gallup pollsters have been asking that question, the number who say they are extremely proud is less than a majority. Take a look. Just 47% say they are extremely proud, with 16% only moderately proud, 3% not at all proud. Contrast that with the country right after the 9/11 attacks, when Americans came together largely as one, united in the face of our worst ever terrorist attack. Back then, 65% stood firmly behind the red, white, and blue. Up next, why I think we all should be proud. Stay with us. A reminder that all of our past episodes are streaming right now in podcast form. Search for The Issue Is wherever you stream. Ray Charles' America the Beautiful is my favorite song about America on a week where we celebrate America's birthday. Although all of our constitutional amendments have value, none is more important than the First Amendment. freedom of the press, freedom of religion, freedom of speech. Those freedoms allow for all the other freedoms and allow us to fight back if those freedoms are ever challenged. Those freedoms allow for a political show like this one, where participants shake hands after tough debates. Those freedoms give our citizens the confidence to experiment creatively. It's why America leads the world in industries like technology, entertainment, science, and academia. America has never stopped being great in 242 years, thanks to the vision of our founding fathers and mothers and the bravery of our men and women in uniform. That's why I'm so proud to be an American this 4th of July week and every week. Thanks for watching. Have a great weekend.
Majesties. Over the fruited plain. But now wait a minute.